Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, Strange Marvel Theories. And tonight's subject is going to be on the Marvel movie, uh, Doomsday. And I have some theories and some thoughts on the movie. And um, my first thought is about how the Russos, um, they have been talking about misdirection and that there's a story behind the story in the trailers. And I think that what's going on with that is that the dialogue and what's going on doesn't line up on purpose to kind of throw you off. Um, and I think that as far as Doom goes, there's been a lot of talk about how or which Avenger would be strong enough to defeat Doom if they if not all of them at once, because Thor talks about he's too strong. Even he said something about other stronger people have they fought them and they've lost, or the stronger people have fought Doom and lost, or something like that. I'm not really sure. Um, but what I think is this: it's not going to be a straight up fist fight, and the Russos are keen on that. I think from the reading that I've done and videos that I've watched, um, they're going to depart from a straight up fist fight, and it's going to be the Avengers working together to not fight Doom, but to come up with a way to defeat him without fighting, because they realize that he's too strong. And that's what Doom wants, a straight up fight, because he knows he'll win every time. Um, and then there's the reason why he's so strong, and it's this: there's a there's a scene in the first Avengers film where Steve kind of berates Tony and says, "Big man in a suit of armor, take that off. What do you have?" So I think because the Russos said that they're doing a lot of callbacks and some nostalgia with this Doomsday film to kind of close out stories and then kind of start new ones, I think that they're going to recycle some of this old dialogue and old scenes and things like that. And when he says, "Big man in a suit of armor, take that off, what do you have?" I think there's going to be a play on that in the film. And I think that the Avengers are going to have to try to work on Doom's pride and his hubris to get him to take that armor off to beat him, because otherwise they're not going to beat him. And Doom knows that. He's clever, he's inventive, and things like that. And I think it's going to take the Avengers working with their minds to invent some way to do that, to beat him. And then the other thing is this: in the trailer, there's a scene where Thor and apparently Captain America meet, and Thor says that's not possible. Now, in the reading and the videos, apparently the Russos, through trying to tell a story behind the story, I think there's mix-ups, there's staggering, and there's opposites in the trailer with the dialogue and things like that. I think when Thor says it's not possible, I think this. Now, Loki's supposed to be in the film, and what I think is this: Loki shows up, but to soften the scene and to create, this might be a spoiler too, to create excitement like the Avengers Endgame film. I think what they're going to do is they are going to have Loki once again, like in the Avengers film, the first Avengers film, disguise himself as Steve Rogers. And when we see the scene where apparently Steve Rogers is trying to convince and confirm Thor that he's actually Steve, I think it's actually Loki in disguise. But because he transcended and did something heroic, he ends up being able to wield Mjolnir. And then he will change into Loki, and then hopefully that's the payoff after all these years of Loki being gone, and the crowd goes nuts. I hope that happens in this film. And the other thing is with that is, if you look at Steve, he doesn't quite look like Steve. I know that there's CGI and different things like that, but he doesn't quite look like Steve. And if you remember, the smiles and the smirks that Loki's done throughout the movies, that's a Loki smirk. So I think that's Loki in disguise. And to soften the the reunion, I think that's what he does. He pretends to be. He does something annoying that ends up being a surprise to Thor, as a callback in the film. And I also think this, as far as um, heroic acts and different things, as far as Reed Richards goes, I think what happens is this: the reason why, or the reason how Doom gets into the 838 universe is because Reed being Reed and no common sense, he leaves behind one of the portals that he created, that one wasn't destroyed. Obviously in the film you see one isn't destroyed. I think Doom, in true Doom form, like in the comics and in the movies, repurposes Reed's tech, and he jumps into the 838 universe through that portal. And that's the big thing with Reed. He goes to the movie thinking he made a mistake. He's the cause of this domino effect incursions. And then I think this is my prediction for Reed. I think what happens is, now we know that Reed, according to Doctor Doom, he stretches himself, always stretching to try to get things done. I think what happens is, perhaps to try to save Franklin, Reed, with the help of Sue, ends up turning Reed invisible. Reed stretches through all the different incursions and then takes Franklin and pulls him back through all the incursions and all the different portals and brings him back to them in his big scene. And I think he may perish, or seemingly perish, because of that. But they work together to try to bring Franklin back. And I think that's what happens. As far as other things, other things in the Doomsday movie, I think that Mystique plays a big role because of her shape-shifting. And I think that she will end up changing into somebody that's important to Doom, that leads him to shed his power, and then he gives up. Because remember, he is the supposed savior of the multiverse, or he's going to be the one that, because of his hubris and pride, he thinks he knows best. So I think that Mystique will be part of that, and that will be part of the non-combat uh, angle of Doomsday. Um, and I think that Nightcrawler will also, because they said Nightcrawler is going to have an important part. I think that he ends up vamping somewhere, and this will end up making vamping somewhere so that it's a place where the Avengers can gain, or the X-Men, or the heroes can gain an advantage over Doom. But that leads to the evolution of all these characters in a way. Like they all evolve, and Nightcrawler's version of transcending or becoming strong or greater is him doing a feat of strength that transcends his current abilities, same as like Mystique and Reed Richards and a bunch of different ones. I think that they transcend, and what ends up happening is in the film they discover more about themselves, not through their powers, but because there's something greater about them. And it's not just about a fist fight, it's about their abilities as people that will end up winning the day. And that's pretty much all I have so far. Um, I'm gonna I'm gonna watch for more trailers and more videos, and hopefully give you an updated theory, excuse me, on this Avengers Doomsday film. And I think that also the Doomsday title is a way of Marvel creating like an apocalyptic event that resets, because there's such thing as a Doomsday clock. I think it's gonna reset this whole MCU, and they're gonna be totally different, or pretty much different characters. They'll be a lot different than they were. They'll be evolved, and they'll be much different, and not using uh, the fist fight angle so much so anymore. I think it'll be more. There'll be deeper characters moving forward. Okay, so that's all I have. And once again, if you like this video, hit like, subscribe, and share, and I will talk to you all later.